We're going to call the meeting to order. This is the Pennington County Planning Commission meeting of June 12th, 2023. Recommendations of the Planning Commission on certain items from this agenda will be considered by the Board of Commissioners at their regular scheduled meeting on June 20th, 2023 at 10:30. The 10:30 time is an approximation when they start the planning items, just so you know, if you desire to go to that meeting after this one. The Planning Commission utilizes speaker request forms, which are available in the commission chambers during the meeting. Roll call. Kevin, you with us up there? Kevin's on Zoom today. Jim Coleman is absent. So far, so's Kevin. Kevin, you with us? Well, we're going to go on without Kevin, and hopefully he'll announce himself.
I'm here.
Oh, all right, we got you. Very good. Have you got the roll as it's listed? Has everyone had an opportunity to review in the agenda the meetings minutes from May 22nd, 2023? If so, the chair would address a motion to approve if there's no changes or clerical changes needed.
I move we approve the minutes of the May 22nd meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded for approval of May 22nd, 2023 meetings of the Pennington County Planning Commission. Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Got that one, Jerry? We're up. Okay. Item number 2 is approval of the agenda. Have you all had an opportunity to review either on the internet or at the hard copy from the meeting for the agenda? If so, chair would address a motion.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda for the Pennington County Planning Commission June 12, 2023 meeting. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now I'd like to move to the consent agenda, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. The following items have been placed on the consent agenda for action to be taken on all items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration. The findings of this Planning Commission on certain items from this agenda are recommendations to the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Item number 3 is conditional use permit review CU 2028 for Mystic Road Cottage LLC, Steve Yaris, to review a vacation home rental in a rural residential district, and staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit CU 2028 with conditions. Item number 4 is conditional use permit review CU 2128 for Travis Green to review an accessory structure, a pole barn, as a primary structure in an agriculture district, and staff recommends to end conditional use permit CU 2128 with the applicant's concurrence. Item number 5 is conditional use permit review CU 2213 for Paul and Chrissy Scorthus to review living in a pole barn shop building while building a single-family residence in an agriculture district, and staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit CU 2213 with conditions. Item number 6 is conditional use permit review CU 2122 for Josh London to review a home occupation, a contracting business in a suburban residential district, and staff recommends approval of the extension of conditional use permit CU 2122 with conditions. And finally, item 7 is conditional use permit review CU 2132 for Dennis and Winone Kamek to review a secondary accessory structure or garage as a primary structure in a rural residential district, and staff recommends to end conditional use permit CU 2132 with the applicant's concurrence.
Thank you, Brittany. Would the staff like any item pulled from the agenda?
Not at this time.
Commission, is anyone on the commission would like an item pulled from the agenda?
Number 6.
Mike Lewis has requested item number 6 be pulled for discussion. Anyone in the audience would like an item pulled from those that she just read off? Okay. Chair would address a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve consent agenda items 3, 4, 5, and 7 as
Second to that.
recommended by the staff.
Moved and seconded to approve items 3, 4, 5, and 7 from the consent agenda. Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mike, is it a major item, or would you like to ask the planner a question?
You just, yeah.
Go right ahead.
Can you bring up the picture of that shop? And then I have a question on that.
On here.
That one, yes. That looks like an apartment at the end of that thing. What is in that?
Christine Phillip, assistant planner. There's office, storage, and then storage in the back for all their paint supplies. They have a paint for indoor, outdoor decking.
So you've been in there and looked at it?
On the outside, there's a residence there, and then the shop, storage, and more storage. So
Okay, well, I was just curious what, if there was like provisions for a department or whatever, the way it looked with the garage door and the whole works.
Right.
Okay, well, as long as that's what it is, why, that's all I had.
okay.
Mike, would you like to?
Yes, I make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we accepted item agenda number 6.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation, item number 6, which is conditional use permit 22-22. Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I would like to do one housekeeping item here before I have a number of speaker request forms that relate to item number 17, which I also think they want to speak on item number 16 as well. In other words, the rezone is so we know, and I want to get the speaker requests in case you have to change them or you want to. Please let us know. But item number 17 is the rezone of the .13 acres, where item number 16 is the comprehensive amendment, which has nothing to do with the rezone at this time. Okay, just so the audience knows and wants to refile whatever, I'm going to bring up the ones that I have listed as number 17 so that you have a choice of deciding whether you want to come up or not. Thank you. Go ahead, Cody.
Cody Sack, environmental planner. Item 8 is lot line adjustment plan, LAPL 23-13. It's to reconfigure lot lines to create track 2 revised and lot J revised of Rushmore Ranch Estate subdivision. The applicant and landowners are Philip and Carmen Lochner in the Battle Creek Fire District. The surveyor and engineer is KTM Design Solutions. Location of the property is 24369 Rushmore Ranch Road and 13730 Highway 40. Current zoning is planned unit development district with existing land uses of residential and a fire station. Access is off Highway 40 and Rushmore Ranch Road, and there is no special flood hazard area on the property. For the proposed track 2 revised will be 7.45 acres, and it's this northern lot right here, and which contains a residence. Lot J revised, which is this one right here, is 3.73 acres and contains the fire station. So this is just a lot line adjustment plat. The current lot line, as you see on this left screen, runs all the way up here. They're proposing to just cut it off right there. Staff is recommending approval of lot line adjustment plat LAPL 23-13 with conditions.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve with conditions. I'm going to look and see how many conditions you got. How many you got, Cody?
5.
Like that in there. Thank you. Approved with conditions, 5 conditions. I was flipping through and making sure my speaker request forms were right. Sorry, I got caught there. Let me flip back to the right page and we'll read it right. I got 7. Sorry. There it is. Conditional, or LAPL 23-13, is that correct? That's the number. Thank you
Yes.
for your patience. Discussion.
One quick thing, Cody. Excuse me, Lackner owns number 2 and Battle Creek owns J.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions for Cody? Anyone in the audience here to speak on this, number 8? Okay. Discussion. We're ended. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 9.
Good morning, Kelsey Roush, Planning Department. Item number 9 is a conditional use permit request, CU 23-18, to allow an electrical substation on the subject property. The applicant is West River Electric, with Sean Bestgen as the agent, and the agent, there's also an agent from AE2S. They are both here for questions. The lot size is 10.03 acres. It is existing, it is vacant. It is located between North Elkville Road and Bennett Road, right outside of Ashland Heights. They're working with the highway department on approach permits, and if you have any questions.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
is there any complaints from the neighbors of having a substation?
Nope, we haven't heard anything that I know of.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Any other questions for Kelsey?
A kind of a nothing point. South Dakota Department of Natural Resources expires midnight, March 31st, 2023. That's one of them that's in here.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, they'll
I
have-
just, for what it's worth.
Yeah, you'll have to ask them about that one. Sure.
Any other questions for Kelsey? Anyone from the audience here to speak on item number 9, which is the West River Electric Association? Chair would address a motion.
Move approval.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation. Conditional use permit 23-18 with 10 conditions. Is that correct, Kelsey?
Yes.
All right. Any other discussion from the audience?
Oops, Chairman,
Yes.
just to make sure that that's addressed, what Mike had said. Mike. If it's expired, do they have to get a different permit?
Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. It's just the general authorization for their permit through the state for their stormwater permit.
Okay.
So usually what happens is they have to reauthorize or they do an extension of the authorization administratively through their department.
So you'll make
So
sure
it's
they.
still effective, and even so, the requirements of our stormwater permit would still apply.
Okay, so we're double covered. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion items? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 10.
Had to call people around.
Morning, Megan.
Good morning. Megan Talmadge, planner. Agenda item number 10 is a conditional use permit, CU 23-19, to allow vacation home rental. The applicant is Spring Creek 79 LLC with Jeff Miller as its agent. Their local contact is Roxanne Dubois. The lot size is 12.02 acres, and there is 100-year floodplain and floodway located on the property. The 7 criteria that Planning Commission may consider is currently listed on the screen. In the interdepartmental review, Addressing in 911 commented that the property address must be posted both on the single-family residence and where the driveway meets South Highway 16. And the Pennington County Floodplain Manager commented that a colored map must be posted during operation of the vacation home rental that illustrates where the special flood hazard area is located on the property. Staff has addressed both of these comments as conditions. Although all structures are located in the 100-year floodplain, they are allowed in the floodplain but not the floodway. So staff recommends approval with 16 conditions on conditional use permit CU 23-19.
Thank you, Megan. Questions for Megan?
Chairman,
Go ahead.
on the site plan, they have 3 sheds.
Yes. Well, there's 3 structures. They are, like I said, they're not listed in the Department of Equalization because they have no value.
Okay. Those sheds aren't going to become cabins or anything
No.
later. They're not big enough and they've been there for a while.
Yep, they've been there since prior to 1994, and if they were to do any major changes to them, they would need to get a floodplain development permit.
Okay, just checking because people sometimes call their stuff sheds that are
Yeah,
living quarters, and just making sure you guys looked to make sure they were.
there's nobody living in those.
I've seen people live in sheds. All right, thank you.
Additional questions for Megan?
Thank you, Megan.
Is anyone here in the audience would like to speak on this? I do not have a speaker request for it. Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Chair would address the motion.
So move. Second.
Moved and seconded to approve conditional use permit 23-19 with 16 conditions. Is that correct, Megan?
Yes.
16 conditions. Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 11.
Agenda item number 11 is a comprehensive plan amendment, CA 23-06, and it is to change the future land use from rural residential district to low-density residential district. The size they're wanting to change in the comprehensive plan amendment is 0.74 acre. The current zoning is rural residential. The existing land use is residential, and there's no flood hazard on the property. The property is located within Rapid City's 3-mile plating jurisdiction, and at the time of writing the staff report, and also at the current time, I believe, the applicant has not started the plating process with the City of Rapid City, although the City of Rapid City has no objections to the request. Staff recommends to continue the comprehensive plan amendment 23-06 to allow the applicant time to start the plating process with the City of Rapid City.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation 2306.
Continue, wasn't it?
Continue,
Yes.
Yes.
Per staff's recommendation to continue 2306.
I thought you
I
said to
skipped
approve.
Continued.
Yeah, you
Oh,
said to approve.
Yeah,
staff
I'm
recommendation.
approving their recommendation. Okay, we do have a speaker request form on this. Any other questions for Megan before I ask her to go ahead and take a seat? Sarah, did you want to speak on this?
I was just going to say, we are working.
I have to have you come forward and introduce yourself, just for the record. Thank you.
I am Sarah Treader. I am the agent on behalf of these individuals. I do have additional information, was going to kind of seek guidance from you as far as from the water board and the surrounding neighbors, and then ask what additional information, and I know we're still working with the surveyor to get that information with the city, of what information additional information you guys need from me and or from us, and where that needs to go.
Chairman,
Yes.
so our staff is usually, well, they're the ones you talk to about additional information.
Okay.
So, and then they bring it forward to us. Am I correct, Shirley?
Correct.
Okay.
We receive it in the packet. That would be everything from letters opposing to supporting, your information, copies of the permit in the processing. It's all in the packet so that we have a right to review that, and it does list the location and whatnot if we care to go see that as well,
Perfect.
and had time to do so.
Are there any questions for me?
Anything for Sarah? Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
We have motion on the floor. Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're on to item number 12.
Megan Talmadge, planner. Agenda item number 12 is the rezone in concurrence with this comprehensive plan amendment. It's to rezone 0.74 acre to low-density residential. And it is the same situation. Staff recommends to continue this item until the plating process is started with the city of Rapid City.
So moved.
Okay. Moved and seconded to approve staff's recommendation to continue. I'll be more clear this time. And that would be to the June 26th meeting, rezone 23-09. Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 13.
Thank you, Megan.
Morning, Commissioners. Jason Tennyson, Assistant Planning Director. Agenda item number 13 is Planned Unit Development Overlay 23-06 to allow a recreational resort. The applicant is Horse Creek LLC. The agent is Garrett Kuchenbecker. He's in the audience if you have any questions for him. Location of the property is 23570 Highway 385. It is 18.07 acres, currently zoned commercial district. Existing land use is a campground. Access is off Highway 385, and there is special flood hazard area on the property. The zoning ordinance lists following standards that shall be required of a PUD overlay district. They're on the screen, also included in your packets. We also list zoning ordinance 510 with the 7 criteria. This is a zoning map of the property. This is the floodplain and aerial. This is the area of the proposed RV expansion. This is the applicant's site plan showing the 15 additional RV sites that the applicant wants to install. This is a view looking north. These are the 15 spots that the applicant has installed. These are the park models on the left. This is a little further to the north, the park models within the special flood hazard area. And one more view. So staff's analysis of the request is that the applicant has some issues he needs to work through with staff to include the park models in the special flood hazard area, floodplain development permit, some building permits, and the on-site wastewater treatment system. So with that, staff recommends the continued planned unit development overlay 23-06 to the July 10th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting.
So moved.
Questions from, go ahead, Deb.
So moved.
Second.
July 10th.
Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation. PU 23-06 to the July 10th meeting. Discussion. I just have one for you, Jason, since you're going to be working on this. I'm aware that a number of years ago, this property has had several owners over the, let's say, a period of 20 years. There was some difficulty in regards to meeting septic guidelines they had, and it looked to me like some of the owners had done some serious work to improve that. And I for one noted right away the new location of the septic for this addition. I think that's excellent. That's much better ground than before that they had to work with. Have you are you aware of the same sort of thing, that there's a difficulty in drainage up there?
Absolutely. Yeah, the previous owner had made some concessions to disconnect some of the structures so he could have adequate sizing up there. Yeah, there's a lot going on up there that we just need to work with the applicant to figure out what is on what septic system, and just to make sure they're adequately sized.
Well, and that's good to see. This has been there for a long time. And it's good to see that they're bringing it up to speed, but I
Right,
just
the
wanted to
applicant's
note
been-
that so that,
The applicant's been very cooperative, and he wants to do the right thing, so, yeah, we're happy to work with him.
other questions or concerns for Kevin? From the audience, anyone here care to speak on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 14.
And item number 14 is conditional use permit 23-17. This item was continued from the May 22nd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. The applicant is David Allard. Location of the property is 12530 West Highway 44. It is 3.86 acres, zoned suburban residential district. Access is off West Highway 44, and there is special flood hazard area to include floodway on the subject property. So the applicant is proposing to construct a bed and breakfast on the property, just to kind of refresh your memory. This is the subject property, this is the aerial, so he's got a single-family residence here. He currently has a deck built up here. He wants to construct a two-story structure up there and use it as a bed and breakfast. This is a site plan of the proposed bed and breakfast. This is what it currently looks like. This was continued because there was some discussion about the kitchen that the applicant had proposed. This is the updated floor plan that he submitted. You see he just has a refrigerator and a sink. He doesn't have an oven or any kind of cooking appliances there at this point in the floor plan. Staff has received multiple emails of objections from surrounding property owners. May 24th of this year, the applicant applied for a building permit to construct a two-story shed with no living quarters or commercial use. If the CUP is approved, the applicant plans to obtain another building permit to finish the interior for operation as a bed and breakfast. June 6th of this year, the applicant did come in and receive his operating license. And he also met with staff to clarify the proposed bed and breakfast will have a kitchenette per the site plan. That staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 23-17 with conditions.
Questions for Jason?
Chairman. So Jason, it says no septic information could be found on this property. The property does not currently have a valid operating license?
They do have an operating license, yep. He came in on June 6th and received that.
And how about the septic information?
Yep, so that was from the original staff report. I didn't update that. I just put the updated analysis in section 5 in the staff report.
Okay, so the updated is the June 6th, not the, because this was May 8th, 2023.
Right, that was the original staff report. I just put the updated analysis in section 5 of the staff report.
And then, let me see, Jason. I think the other question was one of the ladies that commented said something about how the septic, yeah, it said this existing septic system, and it flows downhill with a 50-foot drop over a 175-foot distance from the proposed B&B to the existing septic system.
Right, yeah, and we're working with the applicant right now. He's got some plans proposed. Ultimately, that's going to come when the building permit gets approved.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, before he operates this as a bed and breakfast, he'll have a complying
I'll
septic
have to
system.
comply with the septic. Thank you, Jason.
Other questions for Jason?
I have one.
Go right ahead.
In our planning ordinance, under bed and breakfast, it says that the operator permanently resides in the dwelling. How does this meet that that requirement?
So he doesn't reside on the property. He's in that.
But it says resides in the dwelling, so I'm having a bit of a problem with that.
Yep, so the state statute says they need to reside on the contiguous property, and that's what we go off of for that. We have other bed and breakfasts that have been detached from the main residence and other places in the county.
Okay.
That's all right, Karen. I questioned that once too. The way our ordinance is written, I want to clarify this because Brittany and I just spoke about it this morning. Our planning director and our planners have some latitude within the state law and our own ordinances to decide what's contiguous. And I think in 20 years, I only took opposition to that once, and actually they won. They had a better idea than I did. So, but I can tell you there are some latitude, and in this case, I guess I understand what you're saying. I took exception to it once too, but the state does allow our director latitude to decide what's contiguous. So I do have a couple of questions, just so that they're part of the record, and they were part of the letters that came in. The one lady that indicated she had concerns about the septic system, I just wanted to have you confirm, within our septic design system, we have more than adequate, what would I call it, options versus the standard that we usually see in most housing within the county. Is that correct? And these options might avail him to look at a different way of handling septic or a different design of the septic system.
Correct.
Go
Yeah.
ahead and
Yeah, there are
comment on
different
that.
options. One of them that we suggested to him was that he go with an incinerator toilet option and a gray water system. That would save him from having to tie into the existing septic system down the hill. So
Okay.
that's just one of the options that we have discussed so far.
And our septic system ordinance is actually one of the better in the state. So I guess I have no concerns about meeting the design, and that you're going to sit there and review that. My next one would be, and I brought it up last time, about getting vehicle travel to this. And the truth is that he actually has options there. He doesn't necessarily have to provide a parking up there or anything like that. As long as he supplies parking, he could have a walk path that goes to the thing. Is that
Correct.
not correct?
Right. Yeah, he does have an unfinished road that could be improved to get up there. It
Correct.
looks like it was constructed at some point in the past. It looks like it could be redeveloped to provide parking at the site, but he does have adequate parking down below at the main residence, and like you said, he could have a hiking path to get up to it.
Well, and people are coming up with more and more new options on these things. And you're going to be reviewing that matter before any building permit would be issued. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Okay. Any other questions for Kevin? Anyone here to speak on this item? Mr. Allard, you certainly have a right. You don't need a speaker request form. Just come forward and introduce yourself for the record, and go ahead from there.
My name's Dave Allard. I'm the owner of this property. I am working with Amora professor who has a system that turns it into potable water at the site. And I am working with her. She just started a new company. She was at the School of Mines, but now she moved to Chicago. And I just contacted her 2 days ago, and she said she's more than happy to work with me in trying to develop this system. So just to let you know.
In regards to the septic system.
It's a new type of a septic system. It's on site, and it just creates potable water right there on site. So.
And you would, he's got to submit that through state as well. Is that not correct? If it's not a listed one in the state
Right.
statute?
DNR
And
would
you're
have
aware
to-
of that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they'd have to approve that before we could
Right.
issue a building permit for it.
okay. Thank you. Any
Chairman,
questions for Mr. Allard?
I do. David, Mr. Allard? So, Mr. Allard, I can see some of the homeowners having issues because it seems like we have to find out what you're doing instead of you coming in with following the rules and regulations. So, from now on, you need to come when you need building permits, you have septic changes, things like that. Jason is a good contact, as you noticed. Because Jason has been involved, I know that he makes you follow through with what you say and what needs to be done, not just Jason, but our planning department. So at this point, I'm not against this, but in the future, if you do not follow the rules and regulations, I would probably side with the neighbors because there is concerns that you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing that need to be followed by rules and regulations. But at this point, I think Jason got you all caught up on anything, if I'm correct, Jason, that he needs to follow to do with our planning department and building permits and septics and stuff to make sure the neighbors' concerns are met. And I know they talked about homeowners association, but unfortunately, whether it's city or county, we do not follow homeowners associations, unfortunately, in the state or the county or the city. Those are covenants, and covenants are not legal for us to follow in
Correct, but,
the city or
my,
county.
I have a separate access. I'm not even on the road system of Pine Cliff. So
Right.
I'm not affecting anyone whatsoever.
Right.
There's no traffic or anything.
Well, I was just reading their homeowners association, what they do, and I just wanted the folks out there to know that on homeowners association, I respect that you do that, but unfortunately, it wasn't my rules and regs, it was our lawyers that told us that. So if it is affecting other people in a way that, is detrimental, because they don't like that by the property, you have to own that property in order to control that property unless, like I said, your septic, your drainage or something is affecting them. And then Jason has made sure, and the planning department has made sure that you guys have, or Mr. Allard, that you have followed through with those rules and regulations. So, like I said, from now on, it's good to contact Jason. If you're gonna build or you're gonna do anything with your property that might be detrimental or that that needs a SWIP, which is a stormwater or a septic or a CUP, I appreciate that you contact us, sir.
Will do.
Thank you. Anything else for Mr. Elliott? Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Anyone else from the audience would like to speak on this matter? Chair will address a motion.
Mr. Chair, move approval of CU 23-17.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation, conditional use permit 23-17 with 19 conditions. Discussion from the audience. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. On to item number 15.
So, Mr. Chair, item number 15 will need to be continued until the June 26th Planning Commission meeting due to the Hill City Prevailer did not correctly publish this notice. So
moved.
Your second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve per staff's recommendation to continue this. What was the date?
June 26th.
Excuse me, June 26th. Discussion. My discussion is I think I followed, you threw a new color at us this time. I'm so used to your red, but now we got gray and blue, right? And just so I make sure I understand you, I'm an old geezer, so it's hard to change the old dog. So just explain what your changes are and how they're listed this time, please.
So the gray and the blue are the changes. Anything else that is outside of that was not changed. So staff went through every single definition through a couple of meetings and updated these. So the ones that were changed are the ones in the gray and the blue.
So we should say old geezer instead of chair when we call you?
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that.
I don't think
Most of the
that's
young
all.
people don't know what an old geezer is. Anyway. All right.
I haven't heard that term for
I
a while, so
appreciate-
that's funny.
I appreciate that. Going through all these definitions, I mean, it was tough not to go to sleep. There's a lot of definitions anymore, Brittany.
There are.
Go to sleep.
All right. Very good. Any other discussion from the audience? From the commission? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On to item number 16.
So item number 16 is Comprehensive Plan Amendment CA 23-05 to amend the comprehensive plan to change the future land use from suburban residential district to urban residential district. The applicant is Pink Cabin LLC. The agent is KTM Design Solutions. So this request was continued from the previous Planning Commission meeting in order for the applicant to be here to discuss. I will just go over just a few things from the analysis. This request for the amendment is to allow a multifamily building. The proposed lot is being platted through the city of Rapid City. The future land use in the area identifies several lots as suburban residential district. There are proposed and existing multifamily dwellings within half-mile of the subject property. There were several letters of concern opposing the request to rezone the property to urban residential districts. And the rezone of this property, rezone 2126, was approved by the Board of Commissioners on October 5th, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Brittany. All right, And as I explained when we started out, questions for Brittany, excuse me. All right, when I explained when we started out, we do have a number of speaker requests for us. We usually let the speaker request form folks go ahead, but it is your applicant or agent present? Okay, very good. We'll let them speak at the end then. First, I've got Linda Carter.
I was hoping I wouldn't be first this time. My name is Linda Carter. I'm a resident at 3648 Black Powder Road in the middle of Murphy Ranch, across from where the rezone is being requested. When we moved here in 2021, we were told that this area was single-family dwelling only, and there was future development planned from behind the drainage ditch right across the street from us, down, I think, all the way to 44. But we were told again that that was zoned to be single-family dwellings only. There was a letter from Davis Engineering on March 10, 2002, that also indicated that it would be zoned, the purpose being homes, and that there was going to be a field set aside for baseball and soccer fields. Our agent, our real estate agent, had told us that that original proposed property for the ball fields had been blocked in by some of the construction, but that had been moved, and our understanding was that is going to be where, or that was set aside where the rezoning is supposed to be. We moved here specifically to be in a suburban area, to have just single-family homes around us, just a safer, quieter environment. And we just feel that everything is being changed now that we've made a considerable investment in there. And we would just kindly request that the original plans be carried forward on here. My husband also sent an email in. He is out of state right now, but his email for some reason is not included in the packet. Anthony Carter, but I know that he sent something in. I have a concern too with the drainage ditch there and this being so close to there. The drainage ditch with the rains recently has been very, very active and very full. When it rains, water is just pouring down there. As I mentioned at the last meeting, our sump pump, the first year we were here, never went off. And during this past time, it's been going quite a bit recently. I'm not sure how a building, more than a single-family dwelling, would affect the drainage, not just for our property, but others around us. So,
The commission did get a copy of Anthony Carter's, so
Thank
just to
you.
let you know, it did catch up to us.
Okay, thank you.
Am I speaking correctly? You folks have also got Mr. Carter's submission.
Thank you.
Okay. We try to keep those clear so the folks that do watch it on the air know that we received that. And a lot of times I've even read them, but we did receive Anthony Carter.
Yes.
From
The packet
Black
that
Powder
was,
Road.
yeah, the packet that was available online initially, I think that I saw from Thursday and checked again this morning, did not have it in there. So thank you for letting me know that.
Questions?
I have one. Since you've lived there a while, the drainage ditch, have you ever seen it overflow?
I've seen it come to the top of it, but not overflow. So, and we are literally directly across the street from that. So,
Yeah, well, that's why I wondered. It
Yeah.
just, it looked like it was, the way everything was in there. If it would overflow, I mean, it would really go places.
yeah. And when it rains, the street right in front of it floods, that area there. And there is, I think, 2 drainage areas in the curb that go into it, but it can hardly even keep up with draining in there. So it sits there, depending on how much rain, sometimes a day or 2 afterwards.
And then it goes to the drainage ditch.
Yes,
from there.
yeah.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions for Linda while she's up here? Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Next speaker request I've got is a Donna Patterson.
Hello, my name is Donna Patterson. I live on Knuckle Duster Road. We've actually lived in the Murphy Ranch community since 2010, and so we have seen that drainage ditch overflow because there was a tremendous storm. I can't remember what year, but it overflowed. It was unbelievable. That's why we couldn't believe they were going to build back in that area because we have seen it overflow before. But and when we moved in, both our real estate agent and the gentleman whose company built our house assured us that that area was going to stay single-family dwellings. And I just am amazed that this is happening, but I just wanted to make that brief comment.
Thank you. Questions for Donna?
Just one, have they changed the drainage ditch since 2010? Have they done engineering work on that?
Well, just recently, yeah, but it is a little deeper than it was, so I don't know if it may or may not, if we get a tremendous storm. I wish I could remember what year it was, but that thing was flowing like crazy. It was unbelievable. So,
Thanks.
Okay.
Other questions for Donna? Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Next one I've got is Anetta Matt.
I live on the north end of this piece of property, and when I heard that they were going to try to change it from suburban residential to urban residential, it just blew my mind. Because first of all, that area is still in a watershed, and this last on just made the whole area just look like a mud puddle. And the drainage ditch on the north end they dug it very deep. And so we don't really see the water coming up, but the water is underground and it raises to the surface. My property is right to the west of that area. And I have to watch my property pretty closely because if the water raises too high, the back of in my yard will get soggy. The other thing I am concerned about is there really isn't any roads going into that area. There is no access, so I can't understand what they plan to do by putting more than even a single family dwelling in that area. The next thing we got to worry about is an increase in traffic. Our school system's going to be overcrowded. And if we end up with this apartment building they're talking about, it's going to increase crime. Plus, our taxes are going to go up, but our values of our property will go down. So I just can't understand why we are looking at changing this area, which is first in a watershed. And if they decide that they can bring in dirt and raise the land up so they can build, that's going to ruin my property because I'm almost in an even keel with that floodplain now. And there are several of us that are in that same area. So I'm begging you not to allow this to go forward. I totally oppose it. And if we have to build a little house or two, but don't put big apartments in there. That land cannot handle it. And that's all I have to say.
Questions for Annette? Thank you, Annette. Brett Whitmer. Got it. Thank you.
My name is Brett Whitmore, and I'm a resident of Murphy Ranch Estates at 3325 Remington Road. And I don't want to belabor much discussion here because I did submit an email with some all the key points that we were already mentioning here, reiterating those. I also submitted some photographs that are quite dramatic that show this drainage. I recall the original drainage before it was improved did not have the sharp angle that was been put in there now as a turn. That I think is a danger point where that water comes rushing through. Is it any way possible that we might be able to, just for the benefit one more time of the planners here, to look at those photographs? Is there a way to do that? There are only 4.
We do have them in our packet.
I understand. I don't want to belabor that.
I'm just wanted to let you know they did get those to us in our packet. We'll see if we can call them up here.
In addition to the other points, we're talking about breaking long precedent of 20 years of single-family dwellings, breaking also long promises made to residents. My wife and I have been there since 2005. And the character of the neighborhood, the character of our community would be destroyed, I think, by putting in an urban dwelling in that location. Here's the first photograph. This is at the north side of Longview Road. This is where the water, this is where the water converges from the watershed to the north of us. That goes all the way up Reservoir Road. The next photograph, I don't know how to get these to move. The next photograph shows the rezoning requested signs right there. That is on the south side of Longview Road. That shows, this was on the 29th of May, by the way. The white you see on the ground was hail. None of that hail had an opportunity to melt at the time this photo was taken, as you'll see in subsequent photos here. But that shows the volume of water that is, I believe, over 20 feet wide at that point. This is the cul-de-sac that was visible in the previous view, the last home there. This is taken from the edge of the concrete there, looking down. I don't know how to measure water. I don't have 1,000 foot or 1,000 gallon per minute meter, but I'm sure that it was somewhere along that line. On the left side of that frame, you'll see a small children's ball. It was about 9 inches across. That should give you a little bit of an idea of how much water, how wide, and how deep. There was a portion at the back in the previous photo that had I had my F-150 pickup truck parked at the bottom of that ditch, it would have been buried or drowned by the water. This is the last photo here. The subject property is directly to the right of the frame in this photo. And that area, as I mentioned in my previous testimony from the last planning meeting, is almost always a sodden ground, even on a warm day. It's you'll feel this dampness on your feet when you walk. And that's all I wanted to say, sir.
Questions for Brett?
Thank you.
Thank you for the pictures, Brett. Thank you. Sydney Cox. Please introduce yourself just for the record and go on from there.
Good morning, I'm Sydney Cox. I live at 3677 Black Powder Road. My house lines up directly to the drainage ditch on the left up there. I just wanted to say, I spoke last time, but I'm still adamantly opposed to this change. I appreciate that there is a national housing crisis and that Rapid City is expanding faster than we keep up with. And I know we have a responsibility to build homes for people. But I just think that that piece of land that we're trying to change to urban is inappropriate. If there was a piece of land closer to 44 changed to urban, I would fully support that. Right there off the highway, that would make sense. But that piece of land right there should not be built, period, into homes. I have a video on my phone. I couldn't submit via email. It wouldn't let me send because it was too big.
but the backyards of those homes are underwater completely. And that was after one rain. That was the very first rain that we had, completely underwater. I don't have a sump pump in my house. I'm building one or installing one soon because those homes will be underwater eventually when it rains, and that's quite frightening. I would also like to say that, you know, this neighborhood, when I purchased my home, was at the very peak of the market. And when I bought my home, I asked them what's coming in behind me. They said it'd be single family homes. I said, okay, that's perfectly fine. So we decided to spend quite a substantial amount of money on purchasing this house. If I would have known that they were potentially going to build apartments behind me, I would have never purchased that home because my husband and I definitely do pay a substantial amount for our mortgage to be able to live there. I spoke with my realtor after finding out about this potential change, and he said, on average, building those apartments like that and or duplexes behind your homes usually lower the home values about 3%, which is quite frightening for me because we already are lowering the house value since last year. I know that they're building roads that are supposed to go out to 44 to be able to let there be more access to this area. But realistically, if they did build something right there, those people would have to come out through Murphy Ranch with our road district. And currently, we already have a $100,000 bill to be able to restructure one of our roads. So I have a major concern with putting more people back there in that area that would not be contributing to our road district because we already have a hefty fee that we're going to be paying this next year to help keep up our neighborhood. With that apartment complex and or other buildings, it would, you know, increase wear and tear, noise, increase traffic. And the big thing for me is the safety of our children in our neighborhood. I think I told you last time I moved here from Las Vegas for Ellsworth Air Force Base, and you don't see kids outside playing anywhere else that I've been stationed. You do not see that. In Rapid City, you still see kids playing outside. It's very safe. And I would like to keep seeing that. It's you know really refreshing to me to have the children be able to have a safe place to play with their friends. Putting that apartment back there would greatly increase that traffic, and I'm afraid that if we do that, it'll be more dangerous for the children to be able to ride their bikes in the street. Again, like I said, I understand that the builders are trying to do their best to keep up with building for Rapid City and the growth that we're having. I just feel that space right there is inappropriate to change to urban from suburban. I would respectfully request that you do not approve this, to keep it as suburban, and ultimately I think it shouldn't have any homes on it. Once we put a bunch of concrete in there, that water is going to have nowhere to go, and those families that have spent $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on these homes are going to be completely underwater. And that's all I have to say.
Questions for Sydney? I have one. Have you had any water in your basement?
Yes, sir. My sump pit is almost completely full, which is why I'm putting in the sump pump. Unfortunately, my husband's deployed, so I've been trying to figure this out myself. But yeah, we're working on it because it's definitely filling up. And then the houses to the left and right of me, their sump pumps have been draining out into the street for about 2 weeks now, pretty consistently. And it's a pretty rapid amount of water that's being pumped out into the street from their basements. So,
Okay, that's the neighbors on each side of you?
yes, sir.
And yours didn't have a pump, but you're installing one?
Yes, sir. We are installing one, but we do not have one currently.
Just wanted to make sure it was correct.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Sydney?
How far are you from the drainage ditch? Are you like one street over, or?
I'm, the last house you can see there, I'm about 2 houses past that on the left side there.
Over the other way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just curious if anybody has flood insurance.
I have flood insurance.
Do you?
Yes, sir. And based off what the insurance company, when I got my quote, they had said the area had flooded before in the past. So my flood insurance here is about $1,200 a year, which is quite substantial. That's more flood insurance than I've ever paid for. But because I don't currently have a sump pump and because of this drainage pump or drainage dish we have here, it's about $1,200 a year because they said it is going to be another flood zone. So.
Additional questions for Sydney?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, oops, we don't want that one. Jim Hayward?
Jim Hayward, I live on Longview Road. My main comment is with the apartment buildings going in single dwelling homes. Back in November of 21, Commissioners meeting when we were talking to concerned with the Apple Valley development and the small lots. Andy Scull, who was part of Pink Cabin LLC, stated that they would be putting like items for housing, like product. Commissioner remember that. And this certainly is not like item apartment buildings going in single dwelling homes. And so that's why we are concerned with this, not to mention this small footprint of land for these big apartments. That's all I have.
Questions for Mr. Hayward? Thank you, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Lena Hayward? Other Hayward? Please come up and introduce yourself for the record and go on from there, please.
Hi, I'm Linda Hayward.
Linda.
I live at 7860 Longview Road. I am not a person living in the Murphy Valley area, but I live a mile and a half down the road from there. I'm here to support these people, and a lot of their issues were the same with issues that I've had before. I'm not going to repeat a whole bunch of stuff here, but I do have a few statements to make on some of it. And I have been out then in that area for over 55 years. I've watched it all build up. I have seen things done that should not have been done, and in the mode for fighting this because these things can't keep happening and not being done in the proper and correct ways. This area should not have an apartment in there, period. These houses are all having to come up with the money to redo their homes and stuff. That water is terrible. In having been there for over 55 years, I have seen it flood time after time after time. Twice, I've seen it flood where the first picture he showed, it was actually going across the highway. It got deeper than what the ditches could cover, period. And that happened down by my place, and it happened in this area more than once. I don't know the years that it happened down here by the Murphy area, but in 1970 it happened clear up by my place. Big time flooding going across the highway. I see a few years from now these apartments going up, and because they're needed, we don't have enough housing. But I also feel that in a few years from now, these apartments will gradually empty out. As we get more and more housing built, I don't see these people living in apartments. I see people temporarily going in these apartments, and then eventually we're going to see apartment buildings in certain areas that become empty and become problems. And I don't want to see that type of thing happening in this area. I think a lot of weight should go towards them having told these people that these are single family development. You don't buy something and then have something changed on you in the middle of it happening. This is a wrong in my book. Developers have ways of being able to say something like this, but then they can come back and bring it in here to a meeting. And why are they able to come in here and full well knowing that they want these changes made when they issue this stuff out? When they say it's a single family, it should be a single family, because the houses don't move, the houses don't change, the people do. And I don't believe people are going to stay in these apartments. They're going to be coming back and getting into a home someplace where they're more comfortable. Apartments aren't the thing. It may be the future for some of the younger generation, but there are people that don't want to live in apartments. They're doing it because they have to. And if they said it was going to be a baseball field, it should be a baseball field. The access to that area is very, very limited. Traffic will be a problem, for sure, for the amount of traffic on the road and the way the traffic will be going in and out of there. I've been over there watching it and looking at it several times. And the traffic going into that place has to go across that irrigation ditch. Or not, that's my irrigation, that runoff ditch. So that should have some high consideration because people, it could otherwise be blocked in there and not able to get out. Okay, I guess that's it.
Questions for Linda?
Have you ever
Go
seen
ahead.
water up to that bridge you're talking about?
Yes, I've seen water running over the highway there.
Thank you, Linda.
And
Go ahead.
it was very close to it this time. When we had the first meeting here, I spoke of the water running over it right there. And now this is the second meeting, and we had another storm since then, and it was up to the very top of that bridge. Or not the top of the culvert area. So another 6 inches, it would have been up and over the road. And that's not a good deal. Any other questions?
Thank you, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. I've got, is it Connie Beatty? No? Carl? Carl, I got it. Carl was really scrunched together and I didn't read it right. Thank you. Please introduce yourself for the record and go on from there, Carl.
Absolutely. My name is Carl Beatty, and I live at 3311 Black Powder Road. If you don't mind, I'll show you right here. You can actually see my house, this white house right here. Our backyard is, excuse me, quite literally the right next to where they're looking at building. My house is right here, building the actual apartments. I have several concerns, and sounds like everyone else kind of hit those points, but Matthew and I went around the whole neighborhood and got a petition signed by literally everyone on Black Powder and all the cul-de-sacs and little runways that come off of Black Powder in objection to this. It's quite literally our whole entire neighborhood is against building apartments back there. My concern is I have 4 kids, and I know statistically with apartments in neighborhoods, the crime rate goes up. And I actually had sent an email. I didn't see it on the packet, but I assume you guys got it and were able to read. Heck, even just last summer, we had an issue with everyone's car getting broken into, and they tracked it to the apartments up by Timmons. And they got their stuff back. It was crazy coincidence, and I verified this with my neighbor, who's a detective on the police force here in Rapid City. But the petition is here. I don't know how to actually submit it, so you can all see it. I need to make copies, and it sounds like there's even more people that would like to sign it. I guess I'm asking how I would.
Carl, we need to get it over to Jerry, and Jerry can make copies for our records. And then what you, probably being that we're accepting a copy, do you want to leave this, or are you saying it's continuing, you're continuing getting more signatures? I guess I didn't understand that.
Well, I can go either way. Either if we need to submit it now, I can certainly submit it. But if we have the opportunity to get more signatures, I certainly will. So
Okay.
I have a lot of people messaging
Then
me
for
asking.
now, we would like you to leave it so that she could take a copy of it and she'll get it returned to you.
Okay.
But we probably should have him sign the bottom corner, just making an official document.
Right. We're literally at 50 signatures. So.
That's my question next, the FEMA maps. Yeah, I'll ask that.
It looks like.
Okay, Carl, go ahead.
All
Anything
right, I have a
else?
couple things. Being that my house is literally on the back side of where they're looking at building the apartments, four kids, they leave stuff out. I'd hate for stuff to start disappearing because of the crime that goes up with the apartments. I'm all for building single-family homes.
Retention.
I feel like that was promised in previous meetings and when the land was handed over in exchange for whatever they went through. Obviously, there's gonna be more traffic, as someone brought up earlier. My kids are outside playing all the time. I encourage it. I make them go outside and play, and more traffic just, it could lead for some harmful things in our neighborhood. Obviously, it's bringing in more people. And I'd hate to look out my back door in someone else's window. That doesn't sound very fun to me. So that's pretty much all I have.
Questions for Carol? Hearing none? Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Do you guys have something that you want to put on the table this time?
Sometime I'd like to ask Brittany a question.
I've got it. That's the very first thing, and if you'll let me ask my two questions, it might help clarify. It looks like we have four questions at least. All right. Thank you, Carol. But I am going to ask her to come up before the applicant or their agent. Is that fair?
Yep.
Thank you. Matthew Fairbanks.
Hi there, my name is Matthew Fairbanks, and I live at 5702 Derringer. So basically the house that you can see in those photos right next to that channel, that's mine. I'm kind of the newest member to the neighborhood, and I think I spoke last time to you guys and had mentioned that our realtor specifically told us that single-family homes are going in that area. And I get that that's not your problem, right? And whether or not she knew, she probably didn't know, right? So I get that mistakes happen, but that's from what I understand and from talking to my neighbors, that's kind of what's been told to all of them when they all purchased houses up back there. Excuse me. Another thing that I was kind of doing some research on, and you guys can verify this on Google Maps, if you kind of look at the apartment buildings that are going up currently, the ones that are off of Highway 44 right there, kind of by the Maverick gas station, there's some other ones kind of by the Common Sense gas station right there. They're all on a somewhat like 4-lane wide road to where they have direct access to that apartment complex. This multifamily housing would have to drive directly through single-family housing to get in and out of their complex, adding more traffic to that. There is no direct route to an actual main or even moderate road. Right there where it kind of touches Longview Road, the channel's right there. You can't build an access point there. Essentially, this place would have a single in and out exit, and we don't really have Rapid City Police Departments. They have the support there, but it's not a patrol area for them. That's almost solely patrolled by Pennington County Sheriff's Office, and we all know that our police force right now is currently extended, and I know that they signed off on whatever it has to go through their channels. It is of my opinion that they're probably not going to tell you that they're overextended because it's not their job to say that. So that is a concern for all of my neighbors, and just in the spirit of the actual neighborhood, it's not conclusive or conducive to multifamily housing in that area. So like I mentioned before, just the amount of traffic that has to go through all that single family housing just to get in and out of the actual property is in my mind a bad design. So that's pretty much all I have to say on that.
Questions for Matthew? Thank you, Matthew. Roberta Hook.
Hi, I'm Roberta Hook. I live at 3642 Black Powder Road, and I am currently Linda Carter's neighbor. And I just wanted to bring out that it seems like since they've started doing some of their dirt work or road work or whatever they've been doing over in that new area, it seems like the water table has almost changed, if that makes any sense. My sump pump has been running for the last 4 weeks. As of yesterday, I hit week number 4 with that sump pump running, and it is letting water out every 2 minutes, nonstop. So what happened? It can't be rain from a couple of weeks ago that has still got all this going on. And by the way, with that rainstorm a couple of weeks ago, the water did go over the drainage. It was running up over the sidewalk. It was actually coming across the street up to my driveway, is how flooded the roads were. And I'm very, very concerned that the more that you build, the more that you put in there, the more that's going on, the more that they're moving dirt around, the more that it's going to affect all of the existing homes that are there. Something has happened in the last 4 weeks that my sump pump is running the way that it is. The only common denominator that I have that I can put to it is the dirt work that they have been doing across. When that started, my water issue started. I'm lucky I had a pump in for my sump, but something is definitely changed. You can go out, you can drive down my street right now, you can see the water from my yard is flowing across the street over to that drainage. Why? What happened 4 weeks ago that changed the water table that this is going on? Something's going on.
Questions for Roberta?
Do you
Go
have
ahead,
flood
Mike.
insurance?
I don't know the answer. Do we have flood insurance?
Okay,
Yeah.
I was just curious.
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Because I think we were told that we were not in a flood zone and it wouldn't be required. But in hindsight, maybe we should be getting it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Andrew? Well, we're going to hold you, Andrew. I'm going to have
Yeah.
Brittany. That was my last speaker request for him. And I do have a couple of things, and maybe it'll help the other questions that appear there's other people have. One, correct me if I'm wrong. My memory, it's part of being at my age. We went through this before, and the Planning Commission, I think, denied this matter, and also the rezone, the comprehensive and the rezone. I'm going to put them together, and then it went on to the Board of Commissioners, and Board of Commissioners passed the item.
So the rezone has only been in front of this
Correct.
planning
It
commission,
was
not the.
just the rezone.
Correct, and this board, I believe, did recommend denial. The Board of Commissioners did approve it in October of 2021, the rezone.
Yes.
This comprehensive plan amendment is to bring the rezone into compliance.
And don't hold me to it, but I think that it failed here 4-3, if I remember right.
I don't know the exact.
It was
but-
it was a close vote. All right. So we're doing a little bit of housekeeping here. In other words, getting this in order. The rezone itself, though, just for the record, so everybody knows, and Kevin's, you still with us up there, Kevin? He'll weigh in later. There's a delay, it seems like, in his. But anyway, the rezone on this has already passed. However, it doesn't end there, does it? There's still an additional stage that has to come before us, and that's actually just comes before us, not the Board of Commissioners, and that would be a conditional use permit in regard to what's proposed to build there that has to be a permit issued on, right?
Correct. So urban residential district, the only thing that is a use by right that's different than suburban is a maximum up to one fourplex would be allowed there without a conditional use permit. In order to have apartments, they would have to apply for a conditional use permit under section 303, and there's very specific requirements under section 303 for apartment buildings, meaning setbacks, distances, open space, private leisure space, things like that. So that still would be a requirement if more than a fourplex would be built there.
So if we had 1 4+, the rents are going to be pretty steep, I guess. Just kind of making a little comment there on the side. Go ahead and ask your questions. Let's start from Deb over there. Deb had her hand up.
Just a question. Don't we have a study in the Rapid Valley area for drainage areas?
Not east of Reservoir Road. So the County Heights drainage goes to Reservoir Road. East of that, there has not been a drainage study done
Okay.
on that.
And that looks like something we need to prioritize a little better. Not with your fault, I will bring it up at the commission. Why that is because this is exactly why I did not approve Apple Valley. I think with the water table, with the drainage, I don't know if it's a question, but without detention ponds or retention ponds, I should say, above these areas or in Rapid Valley, if you follow that drainage and you know all about that, this isn't going to get better, it's going to get worse. Once you put curb gutter sidewalks in there, in areas, where's the water go into drainage ditches? We don't have the stormwater retention ponds, we don't even have stormwater things in order to build this much housing in these developments at this point, and we just keep approving them. And this is one of those that, even before this, actually it was different areas there. I go to rummage sale, and people they don't know I'm a commissioner. They I listen to people, and they're talking about how far the water came up right by their houses. So, do you know if they're putting in some retention ponds? Are they making some, what are they doing to the drainage area so it does not affect the other houses that are already there and affect the houses that they're going to put in?
So the overall drainage requirements are done through the city of Rapid City through the plating process. I know through that process, there have been additional drainage structures built to the south of here. There is a proposal for other multifamily on the east side of this property. In order for them to plat off, the city did require drainage improvements, so that has been the delay for that. One other thing to consider on this, for our building permit process, if you get over 15% of impervious area, you do have to do calculations and you may have to do retention and stormwater improvements.
Okay, so how's that worked for us so far?
As far as in this subdivision?
In this area or above it or around it? With the city approving, which sometimes they don't agree with what we say, we've had major areas from north coming south. We've had major issues with west coming east. And now we have problems again with north coming south. Here's the bottom line. Who pays for this? Who pays after the developer's gone? Who pays for the drainage issues and the retention ponds and the issues that people have in these areas with their roads, with their drainage, with their areas, like the major arterials we do, if they're washed out or they flood people? Here's my bottom line. Is there any developers that live next to these drainage areas or on these? Probably not.
Sorry, I can't allow that.
Okay. But why I'm saying that is because when you see it, you understand it more. And you have people, or even in Rapid City, I've had people where people have lived on the top and they built so much that at the bottom, they never have yards or they don't have anything because of storm water. And we're always going to take care of it. And this is one of these issues. And it's funny you guys said this, because before, when I was rummaging and then we're building some of this stuff, I'm like, holy cow, look at the water. Where's all the water going? They have a house built right up to the drainage area on the far south. And I haven't went out there to see if it's still there or how far it went into those people's houses and where it went from there. But here's my bottom line. I don't think we have the infrastructure to keep building like we keep doing without thinking about putting retention ponds and detention ponds in the area. Not just, it's going to have to happen above this and in this area too. So for me to approve this, I would like to see what the what's gonna happen with the drainage, and you can see where they dug, and it's all gone, and it's all blended in with the river that's going through it. So for me, and I don't think if I can remember, approved the urban in the first place. Suburban is what they had out there, and I believe that's about the lowest in areas you should go in Rapid Valley right now until we have water, sewage, and stormwater, and then we don't have drainage ditches to support drainage areas because it's become a huge problem. Again, you can't have development above it that drains into everybody else and say, okay, we'll just take care of it later. These people have living proof that it later hasn't worked for them at all. In fact, we don't supposed to rely on the people buying houses to understand and have to know about drainage and all the other stuff and the road improvements and all that stuff to be done beforehand. And what the developer says, as we already know from years of being in politics, what a developer says and then they sell the property isn't always said again. And you know, once it's sold, it's sold. So you're buying a property, if you have anything that's open by you and you don't own, can be developed and rezoned to anything in the future. So just to tell you guys that. But the main thing I keep saying is the drainage. You build more, what's going to happen? And to me, what's happening with these drainage areas is there's safety factors. There's a lot of safety factors when you have this deep of water. You have neighborhoods by it. We used to live by College Park, and if you remember, they had this big drainage culvert in there, and it was always full. There's people and animals that lost because it was so deep you can't get out of. So when you have safety factors like that, and we just keep saying, oh, we'll fix that, we'll put a retention pond, but it's not working for these guys. And if you look at the people that are north and the people that are coming south of the new development that those apartments and everything are doing, which we know, Brittany, it's causing some major issues for the people that already live in the area already. And unfortunately, the city is approving those. So do we want to keep repeating the same thing over and over again? Or do we have to do some type of bigger restriction on drainage because what's happening to protect people for the future, for safety, and for development? Once the developer's gone, I'll keep saying it, who fits the bill? And who's going to have to fit the bill for a drainage study? Who's going to have to fit the bill for the retention ponds that haven't been built in the past, Brittany? It's the county. So we can either do it today or we can figure out tomorrow, and then with the drainage study, pay another $2 million to put retention ponds in areas we need them. So I'll keep saying it. That's why I didn't want urban in Apple Valley, and I don't appreciate putting urban in an area that already has issues that this is, I keep saying it, this is what Apple Valley is going to end up because developers want to save money. They try to do it right in one way, but the people are going to tell you in the area that live there otherwise, if it's flooded that bad, it's not going to get better. And you put more development in there, it's not going to get better unless we, as a county, make bigger restrictions on things that we already knew and learned from the past of what we can do for the future so we don't have these kind of rivers coming through our people's development. So that's my 2 cents. I'm not in favor of this.
Brittany, let me comment on one thing that you did. When it comes to federal, state, county, cities, they have engineered stamps. And I have to stick up for them. I've never met an engineer that didn't have a high degree of integrity and try to file what his prescribed, what would you call it, technology produces. I think we're seeing improved drainage technology come from that, too. There's people that aren't going to venture out into the murky water to put their stamp on something. So we all are, what would I say, tied directly to people with engineer stamps in regards to drainage. I don't think it's perfect science. So I would have to agree with you too. And then I think it's one that also develops with the future. How much do we change? In other words, how many changes were made before we looked at this that created an additional drainage issue? But I wanted to stick up for them. These guys, when you work with them, contractors are committed to them as well. They have to believe in what's stamped. I mean, their professionalism is on the line when they put the stamp on it.
Yes,
So.
but Charlie, if you were gonna do a development, if you were gonna be an engineer, when you look at past issues and water tables that are 2 feet from the top of the, ground, how'd this happen? How does it keep happening? We've had this kind of stuff happening since we started in Rapid Valley, the new development that's further north of this and to the little bit to the west, the east and all of those areas, Avenue A, all that stuff was drained into everybody else's houses. So we just keep making the process. So it dumbfounds me that we can keep doing the same thing over and over again, expect a different result, and have people not have issues. Because those issues around DeGeest and Avenue A that all came onto the other people because the green spaces were taken away. And if you look, Ron Davis says it right here. He says, we'll be setting aside an area on the east side of the property for a baseball soccer field that will be available to all the valley residents. This field will act as a stormwater detention facility during large storms. This is a multi-use drainage facility similar to the greenway that runs through Rapid City. So what we're doing is we keep saying these things, and this is from an engineer, and then we fill the drainage areas. And then we can't figure out why sub pumps and areas and different places have rivers running through them, because what you do is you keep getting it closer and closer to those drainage areas and creating, as you see, they built it up in this area. They built up the drainage area on both sides so they can retain it. I mean, it's got to be retained above, in the middle, and the bottom to a certain extent for the safety of the people. And I'll keep saying this. I don't get why we keep doing the same thing over and over again. And we keep saying, okay, this is good. We're going to improve this. Show me your retention pond. Show me the area above or before you hit the other houses. Do you own any property above that you can do that to protect your properties? How much does it cost for a retention pond or something that has to be letting the water out a little bit slower so you don't have this kind of drainage through anywhere? I went with Joe all over Rapid Valley, and you should see everywhere that needed retention ponds. And I said, well, what's going to happen next is you're going to have a drainage fee. And now all the residents that are in that area, and people are like, oh, we don't want another tax. Well, you can pay a tax for a drainage area, or you can have your house flooded out by areas that you built in, or other people built in, and you bought those houses, and have some major issues. So not into more taxes, I'm not into more stuff, but what's happening is you're going to put that drainage tax on all the residents in there because we let developers build stuff without the right amount of drainage or retention ponds beforehand. So we're going to keep taking the mistake over and over again. And that's what makes me the saddest about this. When I said it about Apple Valley, and I don't mean this mean, we do not have the infrastructure in Rapid Valley to support 11,000 people with drainage, water, sewer, and everything we need to support in roads and schools and transportation issues. Those 5 things, if you do not have them and you build up areas, I don't care if you do affordable housing. Those people, if you're talking about affordable housing, usually have 1 car. It depends on what you call affordable. It's the craziest thing. I'm listening to people, and we don't have no bus service to get to people to where they need to go.
Mr. Chair,
So
can we get back to the topic that's on the table?
Okay.
it is on the
Rather than a
table, it's
lecture.
drainage.
Again, there's a lot of push and shove issues that you confront on all things, property rights, proper use. If we want to make a drainage, and we're going to force the issue, then we have to propose that somebody buy that land, I would assume, if it's not from a developer, so that it affects those downhill. Well, somebody's not going to give their property up for that, so I just wanted to put that in. There's a lot more than just those issues, and the commissioner is correct. There's a number of items that should be in place on all of them. So we'll close that. But go ahead and
I have
back.
a comment. Don't
Yeah.
you, don't you?
No, go ahead. No, I'm not. I want to go ahead,
I was going
Karen.
to mention that the rezone RZ 2126 was approved by the Board of Commissioners on
Correct.
October 5th with a unanimous vote, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
so, and I remember us talking about this, and we denied it because there was not good access, there were drainage problems and that sort of thing, so, I think we did what we were supposed to do at our level, and it went to the commissioners, and it changed, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Brittany, is the engineering letter that was in here that addresses the ball field as a retention area, that's dated 2002. Is that a typo in the letter? Is it 20 years old that we've got this?
That is correct. That is the previous property owner. Since it was originally started, this development was really originally started under a different developer, and it was purchased by Paint Cabin LLC, and the development continued. Some of the reconfigurations have changed based on different things come up, because it is platted through the city's platting jurisdiction, and it has to follow their engineering criteria manual. Those things change over time, so some of the reconfigurations of the lots and some of the requirements have changed. So that isn't exactly, the platting of the lots isn't exactly the same.
So what kind of flood studies have we had on that property?
We have not had any drainage studies. Like I told Commissioner Hadcock, the County Heights drainage just goes to Reservoir Road. So anything east of Reservoir Road, that drainage basin has not been studied. Anything west of Reservoir Road has.
I'm not an engineer, but it appears to me that the whole watershed starts up about by Sturdivant's and drains down through DeGeese and comes down and works its way. There is a detention pond on the north side of Reservoir Road, but this one goes across. But if you follow it on a map, that whole watershed goes clear up the top of the hill.
It does. It goes up towards like Timmins. So this is the County Heights drainage, so it's a little east of that. So where you're talking is the unnamed tributary and the racetrack drainage. But this is a little east of it. But yes, they do have some interconnection through them. But this is mainly through the County Heights drainage.
It appears that it needs to have more of a study than what we've got available.
And this is east of that. So how this is impacted from the development to the north hasn't been studied. So.
Okay, Mike, you're the next. You had some questions?
Brittany pretty much answered my questions. At this point, I'm uncomfortable with the water situation.
Okay, I'd like to get to the applicant, is why I want to get our questions cleared, so you want to stay with, you have a question, Mike, for Brittany?
No, the question has been answered at this point.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
No,
Thank you, Brittany.
I had my say.
We're going to go to Andrew Scull. Please introduce yourself just for the record and go from there.
Hello, Planning Commission. My name is Andrew Scull, member of Pink Cabin LLC, 803 Industrial Avenue, Rapid City, South Dakota. Where do we start? Let's talk about drainage and big bad developers such as myself. We've invested almost $1 million improving the drainage for the residents that are north. We've widened the ditch. We gave from a 60-foot right-of-way to a 77-foot right-of-way. We ripped out the culverts and installed 2 large bulk box culverts and improved that drainage. Within this development, we built 5 retention ponds to meet the specifications that Rapid City sets forth. So the water that you see, Commissioner Hadcock is correct. This is deeds done up above. This is not a floodway, is not a floodplain, is not designated on any FEMA maps. That information is readily available on Rapid Map. The rezone, as mentioned, was approved in October of 21st. No plans have changed since then. At that time, we asked for this to be rezoned to urban commercial. Planning Commission, or excuse me, County Commissioners did approve that, as stated by Commissioner McGregor. At that time, we did show the phasing. We clearly delineated what was single-family residence, what would be multifamily residence, and we also showed the traffic locations and the two new approaches being provided to Highway 44. Ultimately, this is a cleanup in the county process and the maps. At that time, I could be not 100% correct, but I believe that the county was going through the process of comprehensive plan amendments. Typically, you would bring a comprehensive plan amendment and a rezone together at the same time. That was not an opportunity for us to do so. None of our plans or any of our promises have changed since October 2021. When we speak about Ron Davis never owned this land. This land was always owned by the Murphys. We purchased it directly from the Murphys. So whatever Ron promised, I'm not aware of, nor do I understand that to be a legal or binding document. And what he does talk about is east of the drainage ditch. I think it's specific to note that we are west of the drainage ditch. I don't know what realtors say or do. I sell land to homeowners. I cannot vouch for any promises or misinformation that they provide. The road district for Murphy Ranch has annexed this whole area, including this particular parcel and the parcels to the south that are currently under development. One of the citizens, and it is a good point, what has changed? We've recorded over 10 inches of rain at this job site in the last 5 weeks. So almost 2/3 of an annual rainfall has happened in 5 weeks. There is a low ground table of water here. And most of that water is actually surcharged. You would find that it almost closely matches the elevation of Rapid Creek. So it's the old creek flow that does create subterranean moisture. So I am here at the request to clean up what was previously done in the rezone, and I'm here to answer any questions that you all may have.
Questions for Andy?
Another question, Chairman. So Karen's right. I did vote for it, but I also asked the questions beforehand. Why I'm saying that is because it says, and you said, what you previously said, Andy says they are looking to have a product, houses, that is similar to the existing area housing that matches the overall feeling of the neighborhood and not degrade the area. Andy again speaks about matching the neighborhood with similar housing. So at that time, I voted for it because I didn't know there was going to be apartment houses. I didn't know there was going to be big apartment houses there in the area. I believed what you said.
That is exactly what I said, Commissioner Adcock, and I also said that we would stay within the height requirements and no more than 72 dwelling units.
Okay,
And so when we were talking about that, we're talking about not large 400, I think you could I went back and watched the testimony, so I know exactly what I said.
Okay.
And I said we are not going to build 400 units. They would be smaller type apartment buildings.
Okay, I guess what I heard is what Travis heard, and Travis was voted for this as well. For some reason, we didn't think you were building big apartment houses in the area, and since then, also there's been Apple Valley. That has been proof when we're trying to do these developments that urban is not really working too well in areas when you build smaller areas in places without infrastructure. So the comp plan and the rezone does have to do with all this. So I am talking about the subject we are talking about today. Those things make the difference before I decide to do a comp plan or a rezone. I also listened again that the bottom line is when you said you were going to match neighborhood with the similar housing, it wasn't just me, it was another commissioner that voted for this. That's what our understanding was. So that's why we voted it. That's why the planning commission, when they did their due diligence, and then it also says rezone Murphy Ranch extra area between existing development and Highway 40, which was denied at previous meeting. Hadcock had asked Andy Skull why he thought the request was previously denied. He said that he probably didn't provide enough information to them. And that would be the planning commission.
Can the chair interject? We've got to also consider what the item that's on the table. Right now, he the developer would only have the rights to develop one unit at this point, at this
Well, and that's
request.
why I'm saying this to you, is that it was
Right.
previously,
I just
previously
want to make
said.
sure that what I put on the table before
Right.
everybody understands, he has to come back with his design and
Right.
his,
And that's why I'm telling you that.
okay,
And somebody had said why you were 5 to
understood.
whatever. I'm backing up what I said.
Sure.
And so when it does come, Andy did say this. He said he was gonna make it to the neighborhood. He said he was gonna make it similar to the neighborhood. That's why I voted for it. So the neighbors know it wasn't just, oh, I just said one thing and did another, because that's not who I am and that's not what I do. People know that what I say, I ask the questions. At this point, here's my biggest issue. If you add more houses and more things in that area, whether you do a comp plan or a rezone, you also were going to do a TIF that supported that in the future where you're going to do Apple Valley, which I heard might not happen in some of that area. That makes my decision a little bit different in the future as well. So all these things play a part on my decision when I make stuff. It's on facts. It's on information that I might have known or I know for the future. So if Andy can correct the drainage, if he can help the drainage in this area and it can support what he is saying, and the roads support what he's saying, and we know that infrastructure can support it, and they're willing to do that, I'm gonna support it. That's what I do. But if it cannot, Andy, and you know this to be a fact, if it cannot support that with the roads and the infrastructure we have now, because we don't have the transportation, we're getting some major development out here. And that's the bottom line. So what happens in the future depends on what that infrastructure and how that infrastructure improves. You said you did detention and retention ponds and stuff, Andy, but the roads and everything play a part of that. And if it supports what you're saying, then you already know, Andy, I will vote for it because you did everything you could do, and you can't help what happened up north, but you can help what's happening here. So that's my bottom line with all this. Like you said, we approved the comp plan. I don't know if did we approve the rezone you said for the urban as well?
On the
So,
21st October 2021, October 5th, excuse me.
okay, so tell me what we're doing here today, except looking at the plans and saying what we're saying.
That's what I was trying to get across. What Andy's got another go-around, or the developer, and he's the agent for the developer on this particular item.
Okay.
So I'd like to limit it so that we limit it to what we're looking at today. And what we're looking at today is that he would like to have this approved for the record, as I understand it, so that we can move on and you can submit your designs or whatever you're proposing here. In the way, I assume you're building more than one building, and the rent would be a little high on one building.
You are correct, Commissioner Johnson, and I do appreciate, I think we're getting convoluted with other properties that are long distance away. We're exactly here to do a comprehensive amendment cleanup based upon a rezone that was previously done. We have no existing plans, or we don't know what would be built there.
My next question would be, do you work with an engineer in regard to your drainage out of house?
Absolutely. Everything here was engineered by KTM Engineering. All of the construction drawings have been approved by the city through their requirements.
Sure.
And so it all has been engineered to date.
Any other questions for Andy? Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. Please come up. You have to introduce yourself just for the record. We actually have people that listen to us but don't ever see us, so they need to know who you are.
Thank you. Linda Hayward, 7860 Longview Road. I did have one thing that I forgot to say that I feel plays in on this. And everyone is correct. And yes, the water comes from up north, Copperfield, Timmins, all that way, comes all the way down. What I found out was that in the valley area north of where they want to put these apartments, there's an irrigation ditch called, what's our irrigation ditch, honey? anyway, the ditch that runs along Longview Road was an irrigation ditch. And what happened was during this last storm, that filled to the brim. It overrun it in a lot of places, especially in the valley area. But my ditch in front of my house is 7 feet deep, and it got to the top, very close to coming up and out. And below my house, it did come up and out and had a lot of trouble in a lot of houses along that ditch. But what caused this is that a developer in the valley, and which I believe I know where, I don't know who the developer is yet that did it. I don't think you guys approved somebody of knocking down the wall of that irrigation ditch. But they went through that irrigation ditch and opened it up. Because there's no way water should have come down our ditch at the time of this last storm. So this ditch was opened up in the valley above there, and it all flooded. So it flooded all those houses along that ditch on this last storm. That water eventually would come down, and some of it would get to where it came through Murphy Valley. So I have to do more research. I need help in finding out who the developer was that did this. It should not have been done, because that should be a dry ditch. It's a clean ditch. It's never been a dirty ditch meant for runoff. And that ditch was full. So I believe that ditch caused some more runoff to go into the area where they want to build these apartments. But maybe you guys can find out who the developer was, and I believe I know where it was opened up, but I'm not sure. And like I said, I need to find out who did that and where, for sure.
Thank you.
Because it really would have made a difference.
Thank you. Sure. You have to reintroduce yourself, Andy.
Andrew Skull, once again, Pink Cabin LLC, 803 Industrial Avenue. A drainage report was completed for this area by KTM Engineering. It was completed on September 24th, 2021, and revised on May 3rd, 2022, submitted to the city, and that is what instigated the improvements we did make to that drainage. So,
Chairman.
Yes.
So Andy, when I also decided to approve this, we were going to improve the road that you said was convoluted when I was talking about TIFs and stuff. Is that road still, are you still working forward or working towards the TIF, and is it still coming all the way to like Covlin or whatever road that is? Because why I'm saying this, all that infrastructure made a difference. Or when I also, that's why I said it's not convoluted. Convoluted is everything makes a piece and part of why somebody approves something. And in this case, if that road is not going to be improved, that's a huge issue for you adding more to that development without two ways in and out, one on Reservoir and one on Longview. Longview is a part of that, Andy. So convoluted to me, I'm not convoluting anything. I'm trying to tell you that every piece and part that you said you were going to do before seems to be convoluted. So how do I know your drainage is going to be right and do what you say? Just because you said, because you're the one that's saying.
I'm here specifically to talk to the issue at hand,
Yes, but
Commissioner
that's part
Hadcock,
of
and
it.
if you would like to talk further, I'm willing to do that.
Well, and I'm good with that. But I'm not saying much except I am saying something to you. All those pieces and parts for me make me approve or not approve something. So maybe I know a little bit more information than the planning department in one sense that isn't out yet, that I'm at this point we're working on, trying to figure out, which I appreciate. But those pieces and parts make a difference for me telling you I'm going to approve or not approve.
This particular parcel has never been planned to have any exit directly onto Longview.
Okay, it's good.
Because that's where your box culvert that the county owns goes underneath Longview, and it's not possible to do so.
Yes, but it's the road, Longview runs into Murphy's Ranch, right?
Eventually, yes.
Okay, and they'll be coming that way?
Prior to the section you're discussing, as well as multiple exits on Highway 44.
Okay. And some of that drainage and those things that were going to be improved in that area make a difference?
That drainage and this drainage have no connection.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Brittany. Or maybe for legal counsel, probably just Brittany. If this planning commission would deny this comprehensive plan amendment, does it go on to the commissioners?
It does.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brittany while we got her up here? Anyone from, okay. Linda, you had your hand up first.
I just have some more questions after listening to the gentleman from Pink Cabin. I understand that when he came forward before, he said that he was going to be putting like dwellings on there. I don't know of any other apartment buildings in our area, so I'm not sure why he would be building something that is not like dwelling, single-family homes for us. Earlier, they had mentioned that the engineers do look at the different things, but do they look at, I don't know. Do they look at just that specific property, or do they look at the other surrounding properties? The lady whose house is right there, who mentioned if they bring in more dirt to raise that plane level to solve any problems for drainage there, how is that going to affect her house? How is that going to affect others? Are they looking at all of that? He also mentioned that they have already put in quite a few water retention areas, but why is our water worse this year? Yes, I understand that we had about 10 inches over the past month, and according to worldclimate.com, the average rainfall in Rapid City each year is 18.32 inches. So we definitely have a lot more water this year, which is also a blessing. It isn't usual, but it happens. What's going to happen the next time we have quite a bit of water? What's going to happen to our homes? We're already having major water issues directly across from there. If they've put these drainage issues or things in, why is it worse?
Question for Linda. Thank you. Chair would like to have a motion on the floor so that we don't have to listen to discussion now and then listen to it in regards to the motion with the commission. Think similar so that we can go through it one time. And certainly the applicant's going to have another opportunity to come up and answer questions too. I don't know, just proposing it so that it doesn't, we don't go beat the horse in this end and then beat it on this end too.
Chairman, I don't have a motion, but I will probably say no today until I meet with Andy and he can explain the drainage in the other areas that need to be in this area. That way we can also explain it to the residents in that area. If Andy is doing it right and those things aren't going to be affected in a way that the residents can understand and I can understand, and maybe they won't understand, but at this point, so it protects them as well as he can do his development in a way that is going to be prosperous out there and not, you know what I mean, later on cause issues. So, yep, the Skulks have always been good about meeting with me. So like I said, I will say no today, and then if it goes to the commission, I will explain my answers at that point once I meet with Andy and his engineers, so.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that the chair's not asking anybody to put their thoughts on the table first. I'm just saying so that we can discuss it one time rather than two times, the same items. If there was either to accept or deny, the chair is not suggesting either direction at this point. Just a motion so that we can open it for discussion to the commission, to the audience, so we don't have to do it twice. And I was actually going to ask that we also take a recess after the motion, and that gives people time to prepare what they want to say. And
Mr. Chair, I move we deny CA 23-05.
is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to deny. Let me flip back to the number here. Get it right for the record. CA 23-05. Before we open a discussion, chair's going to recess for 15 minutes. Okay. Let's call the meeting back to order. Following recess, anyone outside, please come in. There is a motion on the floor. You can read it back, or I can just paraphrase it. It's basically to deny 23-05. And it's open for discussion for the commission at this time. All right, from the floor. Yes, sir.
I just have, well, I'm Carl Beatty again. I live at 3311 Black Powder Road, which is literally this house right here. There's, excuse my ignorance, right? Our whole entire neighborhood, literally everyone in that neighborhood is asking for no apartments. We don't mind the additional housing because we understand that Rapid City needs housing. We're growing. And they're literally just shoving it in right here. And it floors me that entire neighborhood is asking for this not to happen. And the developer just does not seem to care. Like Homes is not a 72 apartment complex there. That just floors me. That's not even in the realm of a like home, you know. And I just, that's all I have to say. Our whole entire neighborhood is against this idea. We understand the housing, but apartments just seems absurd. So.
Questions for Carl? Thank you, Carl. Anyone else from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Please introduce yourself for the record, and then you may speak from there.
Hi, I'm Cindy Whitmore at 3325 Remington. Just a quick point addressing the fact that we've been promised single-family homes in this development the whole time, but we haven't relied just on promises. I personally kept track of developers' submissions to the city for this development to keep an eye on things, and as recently as 2020, Davis Engineering submitted 3 different times maps showing this particular section with just a cul-de-sac and about 10 single-family homes. And I consider that fairly official paperwork, and this is something else that we relied on as far as, you know, we thought we didn't have to worry about apartment buildings, that it would be more single-family homes in that particular section. So I just wanted to make that point again, that it was more than just realtors and hearsay and whatnot. If we're not supposed to consider those official documents, then Pink Cabin's documents and KTM and all of those, should we rely on them as well? So, like I said, Dave Davis Engineering, 3 documents in 2020. So we felt after 20 years that the intent was still single-family homes for that area. That's all I have to say.
Questions for Cindy? Thank you, Cindy. I see another hand out there. Yes, ma'am. Please introduce yourself for the record again. And
Sydney Cox, Black Powder. And I just wanted to say one more time, even at the last meeting in May, we were told that these could potentially be fourplexes with a max of 16 units on that. And today we heard 72. So it seems like things just continuously change. And so I think a lot of I don't want to speak for the neighborhood, but like he said, I think a lot of the people are upset about the changing of the narrative and what is it really going to be. If you came to us today and said it was going to be 4 fourplexes that's going to have 16 units that looked like our neighborhood or, you know, meshed the theme, I think people would be okay with that. But it continues to change. It's apartments, then it's a fourplex, now it's 72, but now we're back to 4. It just seems inconsistent and it seems ingenuine. So if we could just know what is going in there and have an actual plan, I think a lot of people, that would put a lot of people's fears aside, and I think people would kind of get on board a little bit more, but it just keeps changing, and 72 units in that area is just not appropriate.
thank you. Questions for Sydney? Thank you, Sydney. Anyone else? Just as a note from the chair, there are 6 of us. It takes 4 for an affirmative action on today's. Just a note for all of you. All right, we're back to discussion to the commission. Hearing none. Anyone from the audience care to weigh in on discussion? Andy, you want another go around at the, okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Kevin, did I hear from you on that one? We got to give him a moment. We've had delays this morning. Kevin? Okay, I would suggest that we not list 6. Okay? And we'll go forward to the planning commissioners. Now we're on to item number 17. Let me check and see if Kevin? Sometimes we get goofed up and it'll still show here and there or not. Maybe he's pushed his switch, who knows? All right, go ahead, Brittany.
All right, item number 17 is rezone RZ 23-08 to rezone 0.13 acres from urban residential district to suburban residential district. The applicant is Pink Cabin LLC. The agent is KTM Design Solutions. This is just a very small portion of meets and bounds description that was originally rezoned to urban residential. And because of the new lot lines and where they are, this needs to be changed back to suburban residential. It was approved back in October 25th, 2021. So staff is recommending approval of this rezone from urban residential to suburban residential.
Have you got a pointer, Brittany, where you could show us this 0.13, please?
So originally, it came down, the original meets and bounds description, I believe it's like right down in here. So the lot lines changed a little bit in this southern portion of this lot from the original configuration. So basically, it'll keep whatever subdivision of these lots, so it won't have a portion of it being urban residential and a portion of it being suburban residential. It'll all be suburban residential. So it's just a housekeeping issue. It's going back to the zoning district it was before in order to these lots not have dual zoning.
And it involves only the 0.13 acres that involve that particular line.
Yes, it is just this portion right here, just this description.
I'm done. Anybody else have questions for Brittany? Anyone from the audience would like to speak on the 0.13? Chair to address a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved to approve, per staff's recommendation, rezone 23-08, 0.13 acres. Discussion from the audience.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
you can hear me now.
good. And I'll clean it up after we do this. We do have a motion on the floor on this, Kevin. I need to have for the record your vote from the last one, but we'll need to get that to Jerry.
You want me to do that now, sir?
No, not right at this time. We're on another issue.
Okay.
We'll call you up here before we move on to after we move to the next item. Thank you, Kevin. Hang in there, though. We need your vote on this as well. It takes, I explained, and I don't know whether you heard it, it takes 4 affirmative votes of the commission when we're short to, it still takes 4 to approve the action.
Yes, sir. I've heard everything. I'm just having some problem with my mic connecting to you guys.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, before we move to item 18, I'd like to get Kevin's vote on item number 16 recorded such that it would be part of the record. Kevin?
Seeing how I didn't get to make comments before, can I make some statements now before my vote?
I'm not sure. I don't believe you can. The item's already been closed and acted on. There was 4 votes that carried it. I apologize, but I'm not sure that I know what to do on a electronic or technical error. Go ahead.
Megan Kruger with the state's attorney's office. So electronic is the same as, regular Roberts rules. My suggestion would just be, since he wasn't able to vote, and you had the necessary votes, that he just leave his vote as a no vote. Just
Okay.
no vote, like he wasn't even here.
I appreciate that, Megan, because I'm not sure what to do on electronic snafu. I didn't read anything on that one. Must be too old. On to item number 18.
So item 18 is the county board report. The Board of Commissioners concurred with the Planning Commission's recommendations from the May 22nd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. The board also recommended to send proposed ordinance amendment OA 23-01 to amend section 319 vacation home rental and the proposed document presented by the South Dakota Short-Term Rental Association back to the VHR committee for review and comments. The VHR committee is going to meet on June 15th. 2023, that's Thursday of this week from 3 to 5 p.m. in the planning conference room, per that recommendation. And in the planning department conference room, upstairs on the 2nd floor at 3 o'clock on Thursday.
Okay, and Brittany and I discussed just to add in on that so that there was no conflict with the Vacation Home Rental Committee receiving both ordinances. We're both comfortable that we've met the appropriate guidelines on that. And I just wanted to assure the commission, because there was questions about sending that on to whether we had the right after, after state's attorney direction, whether we had the right to send that on to them.
Right, they cannot recommend to approve the ordinance that the rental association in its entirety. That is a separate process under statute. They can take it under consideration and make changes to the existing ordinance, but they can't just throw out their ordinance and just accept the new one. There's a different procedure for that.
Thank you, Brittany. Items from the public. Items from the staff, building permit.
Just the building permit report, if anyone has any questions. We're down a little bit from last year, not too much, only 8%. It's not terrible.
Items from the membership.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to extend a thank you to Karen for recognizing that I have would like some additional discussion on density of the rental home situation. So thank you for doing that, and to the entire commission for continuing that so that I could be part of that discussion. So I'd like to make that a point. I did read through the proposed amendment submitted by the Short-Term Rental Association. There's a lot of things in there I like, but density was never really addressed in that. So I think there's definitely some compromise between the two ordinances that are sitting on the table right now. And I think we can find some common ground on some of those, and I look forward to that discussion.
Anything else, Kevin?
I think that'll do it for now.
Thank you. I've just got one, and what I base my opinion on that we can't go back and add Kevin's vote on is once an item is closed and has been acted upon, it takes a member of the commission to propose that it be reopened. And it has to be done that day or the next meeting. And in this case, I didn't see anybody jumping across the table to do that. And it is going on to the Board of Commissioners as we voted on it. So I just wanted to explain, even though electronically, I'm sure, I'll bet Megan, there's probably a whole new set of instructions for electronic Roberts rules. You just kind of blend them in, huh? Go ahead. I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, but I mean, I literally didn't know which direction to go
Megan
on
Kruger
that.
with the state's attorney's office. So the reason why I gave the recommendation that I did is just so that way it's cleaner, and there aren't going to be appellate issues. So I apologize, Kevin. There is a procedure in which it could have been reconsidered, but it is honestly just cleaner, and since the votes were already there, to just proceed as if he wasn't present. As far as Robert's rules, my understanding is there's no different procedure for Robert's rules, whether it's electronic or not. State statute does allow these meetings to be conducted electronically, so long as certain, qualifiers are met. And frankly, this board is only tangentially required to follow Robert's rules. There's nothing in statute that makes it a requirement that you all follow Robert's rules. It just makes it so that way there's an orderly meeting. And, like you're not just making things up. So we do try to follow Robert's rules to the extent that it's necessary, but technically under state statute, there is no requirement that we actually follow Robert's rules. I'd have to look through your guys' handbook policy to make sure that we don't have something in there that says you must follow Robert's rules, because in that case, you really should probably follow it. But I mean, Robert's rules are guidelines, they're not statutory requirements, if that makes sense. So they are guidelines, not rules.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I'd never thought about either. I'll look at our bylaws and make sure if but either way, I think we did the right thing, and it's unfortunate that Kevin had a microphone failure at that time, but I still think we acted appropriately, so. The
Mr.
chair
Chair.
will take the heat if we didn't. Well,
Mr.
item
Chair.
22, adjournment.
Kevin wanted to speak again.
Oh, Kevin, sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I just, I agree with the commission on the verdict on that item, even though I know it doesn't stand for record. But I just wanted to give a little bit of a story from my previous history on development and flooding. An area I moved from, one of the first places we bought a house, had a bunch of development that had happened around it. And this house was built in 49, so it was part of an area that didn't have some of the more modern drainage rules associated with it. And even though all the new developments and new housing areas that developed up around us met current code and drainage rule, at a time where we had some high levels of rain like we experienced recently, this 10 inches, those drainage areas are supposed to mitigate the water at those times of heavy deluges. And my house still flooded. I ended up with, even though I wasn't in a floodplain, didn't have flood insurance, it just had pushed the groundwater levels up so high because of the impervious surfaces or permeable surfaces that became impervious surfaces, that it changed the whole ground level effect. And I agree with a lot of the conversation that was happening. There's a lot of things that happen down the road that we don't see, and maybe the engineers aren't thinking about because it's not directly adjoined or adjacent to subdivisions. It's one of the main reasons I joined this commission, is because I'm hoping that through an effort we can bring forth some of these previous experiences and maybe help drive really good development. I know that Rapid City really needs houses, needs development. I just think we really need to focus on the proper areas and proper pre-planning and infrastructure prior to those going in. So thank you for letting me have my 2 cents.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other items from the membership?
Move to adjourn.
Oh, I was just going to ask, do we have, are the commissioners appointing, do we have any of our planning commissioners up this year, or is that coming up?
You had two.
Two?
Yeah, two.
There were two, and the Board of Commissioners already reappointed Charlie and Michael.
Oh, well, fine.
So,
They barely made it, but they made it. Just kidding. Everybody thought they were doing a great
Okay,
job.
yeah.
And we got a good pep talk.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
All
wasn't me,
right.
Karen.
Any other
It
items
was-
from the membership?
No.
Hearing none, Chair would take a motion to adjourn.
Kevin already made one.
Kevin made one.
Oh, all right, second. Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
I didn't.